All right.
Good? Mike good? All set. All right. Let's go.
I want to welcome everybody from the media who are here this afternoon. So we're here today to talk about the deal that was struck between the New York Senate Democrat Conference and the New York Assembly Democrat Conference. It was sold last night and widely reported that it was a deal to rescind the governor's emergency powers. What we now know this morning is that it does nothing of the sort. Nothing of the sort. This is the equivalent to the line of peeing on somebody's shoes and telling them it's raining. This does not rescind his powers at all. In fact, by the governor's own acknowledgement in his press conference, he was part of the three-way deal. You don't get to be part of the deal that rescinds your emergency powers. This was about the legislature reestablishing itself as a co-equal branch of government. Today we found out that our colleagues across the aisle have no desire for such an arrangement. This bill keeps in place every existing order and directive for 30 days, which the governor can then modify or reissue for another 30 days, just like he can right now. There's about 196 or so current orders that are in place. It removes the sunset clause. In the original resolution from last year, those powers were due to sunset and expire April 30th. There is no sunset clause. That is removed. This can go on beyond April 30th. So for those who wanted the governor's powers to be rescinded, they've actually extended them until the federal government decides the state of emergency is over, which the bill does not actually outline. That was just the governor's own standard or metric that he announced today. I want to be clear, that sunset clause, if they had done nothing, if the Senate Democrats and some Democrats had done nothing, if they had continued to vote down our resolution every day, that would have been better than this bill. This bill is a feckless shell. It's worse than nothing. Not better than nothing. Some people, oh, isn't this better than nothing? It is not better than nothing. It is nothing. It doesn't do anything to change the current power dynamic. In fact, it makes it worse. The best part about this bill, though, I think, is the comment box. I don't know if we have one here. We should get one because there's going to be a lot of comments, I guess. In the bill, it says that we can issue directives, but now senators, leaders, chairs can comment. I got bad news for everybody, including the governor and the legislative leaders. I've been commenting for the better part of a year. I don't need their permission. I'm a state senator and I'm an American. I don't need anybody's permission to comment on policy that emanates from this governor or this administration. Neither do my colleagues behind me. I mean, I'm just reminded of the secret meeting that happened between the governor and the Senate Democrats and Assembly Democrats over the nursing home issue, where Senator Skoufis, when he was told they had withheld data, he was told why they had withheld data, and he was told that they had lied to him, and he said, thank you. That's where we are. Where the legislature, thank you. Thank you for allowing us to comment on the executive orders, because we have no desire to get back to the business that we were elected to do by the people of New York, even as we sit here with multiple allegations of sexual harassment, with an investigation into the deaths and cover-up of 15,000 people in nursing homes due to COVID. 2 investigations, and even that hasn't shamed them in doing their job. And that is really the shame of it all. So with that, I want to turn it over to my colleague in the New York State Assembly, Leader Will Barkley.
Thank you, Leader Ort, and you hit on a number of issues I want to hit on. I think it's important to look at the context that we're in right now. Think about it. We've had the nursing home fatality issue around we knew about it last spring, the March 25th order. We advocated, we called for an investigation. The majorities did nothing. Then we had this secret closed-door political meeting that the leader referred to. Seems like there was a cover-up. You have the top aide of the governor saying we didn't want to release the information because we were worried about a Department of Justice investigation. We're worried about the political fallout. What does the majorities do in either house? Doesn't that cry out for an investigation? They do nothing. And then obviously we have these sexual harassment concerns. What has the majorities done with that? Has there been any investigation starting a panel, some sort of committee to look into this? They've done absolutely nothing. And now, to add salt to the wounds about doing nothing, they come out and claim that somehow they're taking away the governor's emergency powers. I think Leader Ort was right on spot. This is worse. If we did nothing, those emergency powers were going to expire April 30th. And now they have a three-way agreement with the governor. I don't know why we're not doing a message of necessity and bringing this up today. Why are we waiting to 8 for 3 days? They have an agreement. They might as well get it passed. And it is worse. It is worse. And like the leader said, I mean, what are we going to comment on that? That's almost insulting. So I'm thrilled to join here with the Senate Republicans. I know our conference and the Assembly feel very strongly about this, and we're not going to stop. We're going to keep hammering on this issue because New Yorkers want it. It's good for New Yorkers. It's time for the legislature to act like a co-equal branch of government, and we're going to keep pushing to get that done. Thank you.
With that, we're happy to take any questions. If you want to just, if it's directed at one of us, just identify who. If it's just a general question, that's fine too.
Senator, New York is one of 15 trifecta states where the governor, both houses of the legislature controlled by one party. 145 members of the state legislature are Democrats out of 213. Is that a signal that the people of New York State are more comfortable with Democrats governing them?
I must have missed my earlier press conference. I don't know what that has to do with this. I would say that it should be a sign that one-party rule results in one-person rule. There is no accountability on this executive, even at this moment, when it seems to me that my colleagues across the aisle are screaming for accountability, when New Yorkers should be screaming for accountability. This isn't accountability. This is a backroom deal, no doubt, as part of some maybe larger budget negotiation. But this is the worst kind of thing to come out of here, where you tell people, there are restaurant owners right now who are going to call their senators, people behind me, my colleagues across the aisle, and they're going to say, what does this mean for me? And the answer, I'll tell them all right now, is nothing. It means nothing for you. Nothing changes. As one of my colleagues said, Seinfeld, the show about nothing, this is a bill about nothing. It really is. And I wish it was just funny. But it's insulting to me, and it should be insulting to a lot of people who were told last night a deal is finally there to rescind the governor's emergency powers, and I'm sorry, but it's nothing of the sort. So yes, it's one-party rule, and that's why we are where we are, but we have all been elected and represent millions of New Yorkers who expect us to do the job of legislating and holding the executive accountable, and right now, that is not happening, and this bill doesn't change that.
But if New Yorkers were fed up with one-party rule, wouldn't they elect more Republican lawmakers? Wouldn't they elect a Republican?
Well, there's another election in 22, so we'll find out.
Yeah, and I get a little offended that anyone thinks this is a partisan issue. We don't see this partisan. It so happens we're all Republicans, so we want action here. But do we think nursing home fatalities is a Republican or Democratic issue? As far as I know, the people that are unfortunately dying, tragically dying in these nursing homes, were Republicans and Democrats, and I think everybody ought to be concerned about that. Same with sexual harassment. Is that a Democrat or Republican issue? I don't think so, and I think everybody ought to be concerned of that. You're right, we do come from a Democratic state, but I think people, at least I can hear from my constituents, are getting concerned, they're getting fed up, and I would encourage my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to listen to their constituents, because I think things are changing.
And I want to add one more thing on that, though. 14 of my colleagues in the Senate wrote a letter saying they supported rescinding the powers. This doesn't do it. So if you want to rescind the power, so this is a bipartisan cause now for rescinding the powers, and yet we have the inverse, in my view. It's the extension of the powers beyond the date. Next question. Morgan.
What do you feel about the government's apology today when it comes to these sexual harassment allegations?
You know, some would say it was a performance worthy of the Emmy. But I'll say, look, I don't know what's in somebody's heart. What I know is this. There's an investigation ongoing by the Attorney General's office. And no amount of apologies are going to change that investigation from moving forward. The governor didn't want that investigation to move forward, as he wanted to choose someone else. Our conference said that was unacceptable. My colleagues across the aisle said it was unacceptable, and that's why that investigation is now moving forward. So I'll let that investigation play out and see what the results of that are. If he's sorry, he says he's sorry, then he can say he's sorry, but it doesn't change what these women have come forward to allege.
You said it all.
Dan?
Oh, Dan, I'm sorry.
I have a question. What did you think about the past week? It took the governor over a week to respond to these allegations in person. He was in his mansion, very close to his place of work here. What did you think of that?
When it started, I thought I must have missed something, because you know, we started about the COVID, and I felt like it was like the last week hadn't even occurred, right? It was as if it hadn't happened before he addressed it. Look, I think that these allegations are incredibly damning. The scandals are incredibly damning. He's got 2 investigations. It actually goes back to my point that I said, how can someone continue to do the job that we expect the governor to do amidst all these distractions? Especially if he can't, you know, this was a guy who wasn't shy for a year about doing these press conferences, and you know, they sort of meandered along and they became almost like a daily show and all this other stuff. And now all of a sudden, of course, that wasn't on the calendar. So look at it, I wasn't surprised, but I think it reinforces the point that if he can't be out there and communicating, and he can't be out there doing the job that we expect a governor to do, that is why I have called for him and others to step aside, because I think it is a huge distraction. He's got 2 investigations, and how could any one person put the needs of New Yorkers ahead of that kind of distraction and personal distraction?
I guess I wasn't surprised. I think the governor's hoping that this will all blow over. I think that's what he wants. Maybe it'll die down, the press will move on to something, the legislature will move on to something else. But it does again make me think, why isn't the legislature acting? Why aren't the majorities acting? And not necessarily just on the sexual harassment claims, but again, on the nursing home fatalities. They're doing backwards on the emergency powers. Isn't this the time? The governor, he's going to have to, if he thinks he can't govern, it's up to him to resign. He's going to do it. Clearly, that doesn't seem like that's going to happen after seeing today's press conference. But I think it's wholly incumbent on the legislature to start investigations on all these issues. We are, as I said, a co-equal branch of government. This is our duties. This is what we're elected to do, and we ought to be doing it.
Next question? Okay, we're done.
Thank you, guys. Hey, Daphne, how are you?
Good crowd.